Hey, welcome to Halo Love and Country. I'm Richard Gayton. This is Mitch McDonald next to me here. And we are talking about the risks, again, of serving in the military, of LGBTQ people, of transgender people. I'm going to talk today a little bit about transgender folks, what they're dealing with right now in the military, what's happening today. My experience was as a Navy psychologist and an Army officer. I was active duty Navy, and I was bisexual and in hiding, and lived during the persecution, the active persecution and prosecution of all LGBTQ people who were visible in the Navy, the Army, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and it's still going on in its own way. But I'm going to delve into that a little bit. I'm going to talk particularly about Emily Schilling, a fighter pilot who was just recently discharged from the service. Mitch is going to go a different direction, and he's going to talk about the risks of being an African American person in the military, and specifically and exactly what's happening today to African American people in the military under the Trump Hegseth leadership. Mitch, you want to start today?
Sure. So yeah, we're definitely going into racial issues that are going on, but I actually sort of wanted to touch on the framework first that everything is falling into right now. As you already pointed out, this is a Trump Hegseth deal. Hegseth's questionable qualifications to be leading the U.S. military. Those specifications, I'm not going to try to go into that. The line troops, the other officers, everyone knows better than I do exactly how unqualified he is, and I'm sure can highlight those factors for themselves. I wanted to start out talking about the part of it that makes a little more impact for the rest of us, not just that he's not exactly competent, but the process he's going through to make the government more malleable to Trump's wishes for the inappropriate things that he's going to be doing. So we go back to May, I believe it was, when he made sort of the blanket statement that they were going to be cutting like 20% out of the upper echelons, the 4-star generals. There are too many chiefs, not enough Indians mentality. There's a little more to that because I know we had like a separate breakdown for like the National Guard and some other areas, but it was basically a 20% reduction. And what we've really seen over the last several months, the last 6 months, is not so much that they're reducing that staff presence as they are turning that whole situation into a loyalty test. The people that they are removing are the people that are not necessarily towing the Trump Hegseth line, not the people who are incompetent, not the people who, there's already 6 guys in that department and it could be run by 3. It is literally just, if you're not doing what we want, we're going to slide you out. There is a sexist and racist component to that. They are removing a lot of black officers. They're removing a lot of women from positions of control. And we're kind of going to cycle back to that. But I wanted to sort of just start off by talking about some of the people that he has removed and why he has removed them in the last several months. So my list starts with there's a Rear Admiral Milton Sands. He was on the Navy side of the picture, and effectively he was removed because he supports everyone. He does not look at race and religion. If you are qualified for a task, you should be in that task. Now, given that, he was also pressuring the system to start allowing for female drill instructors all the way up into the SEALs. And that position earned him the boot. There is Lieutenant Jeffrey Cruz, Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz. He was replaced as the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency by a civilian intelligence officer named Christine Bourdin. They have about the same amount of time in, but obviously his experiences, leading troops, battlefield, and hers is more analysis. He got the boot because he was near the top after that. After we made the attempt to bomb the nuclear labs that they had in Iran, we decided we could take out a mountain, which technically we have the tools for, but they did not do the job as they were expected. A lot of their materials had already been moved out and survived. And he simply stated that the damage we intended to do was not the damage we did, and the system is still viable. And Trump didn't want that to be said. He wanted us to say, "Hey, we destroyed all their stuff, and they're scrapped, and there's nothing left." So his pushback on that one cost him his position. And we have seen quite a few generals against staff losing their positions for similar reasons over what we're doing in Venezuela right now. General CQ Brown, he was pushing back on that situation. Lieutenant General Joseph P. McGee, who was CQ Brown's main aide, he went out the same way. Admiral Alvin Halsey, again, pushing back against our activities in the Caribbean, and they pushed him out of his position.
Are these all black officers?
Only one of them, CQ Brown.
CQ Brown
is the only one of the individuals who I specifically looked up who was black, of color at all, and and there were no women on this part of the list either. I was not able to clearly find any women, but we're going to come back to that part of the story. More to our focus, Rear Admiral Michael Donnelly. He was the commander of I believe it was the Arkansas. I believe that was his vessel, and he ended up losing his position. They basically kind of railroaded him on an issue of him having drag shows on his battleship, which was an overblown statement because it wasn't just, they weren't just having drag shows, they had talent shows. And in one of those talent shows, one of the sailors did a drag thing. There's some argument there about, how involved he was in the situation. There's an open statement that he wasn't even on the vessel when it happened. I assume he stood up for his troops and simply said, this is just our ship and we were blowing off steam and having fun, and, no one was hurt. Nothing inappropriate was done. And what they needed him to say was, cross-dressing is bad and wrong, and you got to be a man or you don't count.
Yeah, it's a loyalty. It's loyalty. It's not so much racial. It's say the right words, pledge allegiance to Trump, do what Hegseth says, then you get to stay.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm actually very curious as to how the issues that we're currently creating with Venezuela. We have so many people who are resigning rather than push back, and then we have people who push back and get fired. And I assume in a few cases they get reassigned, but they mostly seem to be getting fired. And we're at a point now where, since we've already started moving troops into the area, what I'm wondering is, and that I'm not hearing anyone say anything about, is whether or not the leadership currently is basically just playing the go along game. There's nothing to put their foot down about, so you're being asked to move your troops, your ships, your aircraft to a new area. No one's being harmed by that. Their presence isn't doing any damage. So that's fine in and of itself. Are they playing the game where they're just waiting to receive an order that they know is inappropriate so that they can then put their foot down? Or do the people we have currently in charge agree with the administration, and they're the sort of people who are simply going to act when they are instructed? Which then immediately turns into a question of whether or not, the sailors on their vessels, the soldiers they're going to put on the ground, do the same.
But it's when you're a military officer, you're already in a bad position. If the commander in chief, Trump, who has zero military experience, if he
So is it
says,
zero? He went to an academy, didn't he, at one point? Didn't he go to the academy?
I guess we could call that, yeah, his father sent him to a military school, but he sought multiple deferments to stay out of the military itself because he knew that he could not handle doing what anyone else says to do. Yeah,
there you go.
But if he speaks, but he is the embodiment of the Constitution in his mind, and when he says to a general officer, "You're going to invade Venezuela," well, that's almost impossible to disagree. Well, you can express your opinion, maybe. I don't think with Trump you can even express your opinion. I don't think he's really open to being advised by people very much, other than the very, very loyal folks. And
yeah, well, I think you have to start with the blowjob and then move on to his ego to get him sort of focused on what you think you want him to do.
Yeah, he's got to be absolutely assured of your total loyalty, and then he might listen. And we watch him do that, where he jumps from one decision to another, depending on who has done the grooming first or last. I guess is the last groomer will maybe get their way. It's so. But if you're in the military and that's your life career, you endanger your career to speak up to someone like Trump, who is an authoritarian personality. He does not cannot deal with contrary opinions very well. Well, you watch how he deals with contrary opinions. He just switches from one position to another because he has no stable judgment of his own. He looks for opinions that might work for him in the moment, but he really doesn't look to the long-term consequences of his actions, which is all personality disorder problems, but we've all tried to diagnose Trump, and it seems to be a fool's errand, because there are a lot of people who really, really want this in our country, apparently. But anyway, you were saying, and I thought you were going to talk about something as arcane as shaving standards, which, by the way, it's really important in the military. This stuff, shaving, by the way, is a big deal in the military. Anyway, go ahead. Would you talk about that?
Oh, well, and I'm going to get to that. I'm still
okay.
So let me move forward, skipping over the any other matters of loyalty. I feel like the second biggest chunk of damage he's doing outside, as we were talking, he's bouncing people out. But with what I wasn't able to find was clean information about women in the military, where our current recruitment of women for the military is. So I don't know that we have fewer women trying to get in, or more women being pushed out, or women being sort of held rather than promoted. I can't find clean information on that. What Hegseth is definitely up to is he's trying to erase them from the military. In that meeting they had in September, the one where he dragged in all the staff officers from all over the world and gave them that pointless little meeting that could have been a text. He said in that meeting that he wants the military to maintain the highest male standard. And he was very specific in saying the highest male standard. So, outside the sexist approach to how our military is supposed to run, and the complete lack of awareness about what women do in their day-to-day, what anybody does, it feels like in their day-to-day duties as soldiers. He has then gone backwards and started removing information about how women serve. He's been removing, plaques and texts and about the service they have performed for the U.S. military over the years. There was a women's peace and security program that Trump had moved out during his first term, and now coming in under Hegseth, they have axed a program called the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services. Now, that's like a 70-year-old program. It was started under Defense General George Marshall, of Marshall Plan fame, who clearly understood that women were going to be part of the military long term, and we needed to be aware of what they brought to the table and how we needed to deal with them. I mean, they've been in the Army since at least the Revolutionary War, so I guess that's funny that it took another couple of hundred years on top of another 100 years on top of that before we recognized it and accepted it. That's an organization that has, women make up a full fifth of our military. This organization spoke to the needs, the expectations, the goals, and I found a source that said that 98% of the advisements that they have given to the military have actually been employed, and the number was like out of 1,000, 1,200, something like that. 98% of their suggestions have been taken up. So clearly an effective, functional organization, and Hegseth has removed them because we can't have women being present and standing for something.
Well, we're talking about an administration that primarily values male, white patriarchy. This is actually, and they're very much originalist people, because that was the way the country was designed, was white male people of property, by the way, very capitalistic. And the more slaves you had, the better. If we talk about originalism, that's what Trump and Hegseth are promoting. So they've got to go back to denigrating women. Maybe you would know more than I would about. They would start to de-emphasize the role of African American people in the military too. Did they do some history erasing on that? I don't know.
I haven't seen anything like that yet,
and I'm wondering why. Maybe it doesn't conform to my theory, but for some reason, Trump and Hegseth are both feeling threatened by diversity in the military. Diversity everywhere. DEI has become a kind of a swear word of MAGA. The Army was one of the best promoters of diversity, especially of Black males, through the last 40, 50 years. And it sort of went under the radar, and it was allowed, and blah, 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 blah. But then there was this ceiling where Black men did not become officers. Now they have become officers. And they would turn all this back if they could.
Yes.
They would.
Very much would.
And so and of course, the contrary, the countervailing force of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm very much in favor of DEI, and I think that is a great goal it's of course being challenged in every way possible. And we see with trans people, you still haven't told the story. I'm going off on trans people, and I still haven't heard about shaving. I was trying to get you to talk about shaving, but you won't talk. That the military loves shaving, by there, and they're very much into. It's a big deal when you go into the military. So when I was finishing my PhD in psychology, I applied both to the Air Force and to the Navy. And one of the reasons that I picked the Navy, in addition to them being near seaports and that I had a family history of a naval officer in the family, was because I could have a beard. It was perfectly allowed at that time under Zumwalt's Navy to have a beard. But everything else and the Army was death on everything else. You had to shave closely. And come on, tell us about it, Mitch. What is that about? What is going on with shaving in the military for Black men?
All right. So coming back through the 70s, with the increase in Black soldiers serving, at some point it just simply got recognized that the regular shaving profile was not going to work, and that was effectively because it is a comparably common thing among Black people to have something that's called pseudofolliculitis barbae.
Okay, say that again. And could you? Your voice is getting low now. Could you say it again? Because white people don't know about this. Believe me, nobody knows about this, and it's time people know about this. Okay.
Okay, so the condition is called pseudofolliculitis barbae. It's an acknowledgement that when some people shave, once the skin is broken, bacteria gets in, you start to develop infection, and that results in irritated, reddened skin that can lead to some pretty nasty infections, open sores. And I mean, I don't know how well the camera is able to catch mine, but I have the same condition. My father served in the military. He has the same condition. Most of my uncles have the condition, and they served in the military. I grew up watching my dad basically with a needle and a pair of tweezers digging out ingrown hairs, and that's the other side of it. Sometimes what happens is, because you have curly hairs, they'll break through the skin and then they'll turn back and dig back down into your skin. And sometimes they'll never make it out. They start to come out, they curl over, and then the length of the hair just continues to grow underneath the skin and twist in on itself until you've got a mass that has a big hair at its core.
No.
Again, uncomfortable, ugly, up to painful and destructive, because when you have to dig down in there and pull that out, more often than not, you create sort of a pit in your skin, and then that has to heal. And while it's healing, that's another potential source of infection. If you're spending your time in the field, that is dangerous. So that's where it started. But then down the road, we run into, and because you're looking at anybody with curly hair, you have almost anybody from the Middle East. You have lots of Hispanic people. You have Jewish people who have that same hair texture and that same issue. So sometime in the 2000s, I believe it was, we started recognizing that there were people beyond Black soldiers who needed the same benefit of that particular shaving profile. As you were talking about with the beard, at some point we also recognized, we started allowing Sikh Muslims who need allowances for hair length, for hair covering, for beard length, and we eventually stepped into that. And then we have, and again, as we already said, we have Jewish soldiers who have requirements, and Middle Eastern soldiers who have requirements based on their religions, based on their faith, that requires them to do some things physically that are outside what we consider to be the norm. They're not clean shaven, to allow for them for their respect to their religion. And we're moving into a situation now where we're going to stop recognizing people's religious exceptions. And in the same way that we are cutting women out of the military, and blatantly saying things like it's a man's standard. We're looking at the same issue with these folks, and that that is a clear female discrimination, and now we're moving towards clear religious discrimination. Whether or not because so many other people are involved, you could get around saying that Black soldiers are the target of this particular change, but we know that some 80% of the military that is dealing with this issue is going to be Black soldiers, and this makes for an easy way to push them out. And again, the same thing for Muslims. The Sikhs aren't going to cut their hair and shave off their beards and stop wearing their symbols. They're going to leave the military before they're going to do that. And the same with the Muslim soldiers. So
we just call it standards then. We can use standards to enforce racism. That's the...
Well, we could call it that if we didn't already know that those standards aren't necessary. It's actually just an excuse, and it's ugly.
Yeah.
It is ugly, and it is disrespectful to generations of Americans who have served this country through their own personal issues, through their own physical issues, through their own mental and emotional issues. We're leaving our veterans by the wayside more and more under this administration. Not that there haven't been issues before now, but it feels so much worse and pointed. They're targeting our veterans. They're going out of their way to find ways to make it so that they cannot use their benefits and to reduce the benefits that they can use.
Why is Pete Hegseth uncomfortable with there being so many Black folk in the military, with there being so many women in the military, with there being so many gay and transgender people in the military? Why is he so uncomfortable?
Unless we can do a deep dive on his history, the way he was raised, where he was raised, talk to everybody who ever knew him. I mean, we literally have to dissect his life to find out what makes him a misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, racist asshole.
Now, we do know Trump well enough, though. So why is Trump so uncomfortable with Black folks, gay folks, women in equal power positions to him? Not as their maids, not as in the closet doing his hair or makeup on The Apprentice, or being his producer or cameraman on... What is so uncomfortable for Trump about DEI? Why is this so upsetting to him? What do you think?
Well, from my position, and we've had this argument sort of around me. We've discussed this many, many times. And so the argument that we can't seem to completely settle is whether or not he's racist or sexist or homophobic, or whether or not he's just an opportunist who understands that if I say I don't like these gay people, I gain favor with these people over here who also don't like these gay people. And if I put women down, I also gain favor with these people over here who like putting women down.
So he may not be a racist at all. He's just willing to screw anybody that will give him a leg up, right?
Yes. And that's where I stand on it. Yes, it's everything he does is effectively just a power play. Whose favor do I gain, and who am I putting in my debt with my decision-making processes? That's everything is transactional with him, and we know that. It's only a question of what do I get and what am I giving. That's it. There's no moral moral standard. There's no religious standard. There's no legal or professional standard. It literally begins and ends at what do I get?
He has one standard, I think. What
Greed is good, and and he's way before that generation. When that movie came out in the '80s, he was probably already fighting his bankruptcy wars.
he's a baby boomer like me, almost the same age, and we were raised in an age where white males they had the power. They had the power no matter how much money you had. But the more money you had, the more power you had. And he watched his father deal with the lower income people in apartments in New York. He watched how to keep people out that didn't have as much money as he would like them to have, or whatever. He learned about racism very early. He learned about how to use homophobia to stay in power. He knew how to do all that. People of wealth are very tolerant of people who work for them as long as those people do everything they want. Slavery is very reassuring to the slave owner. If you have a trans person that does your hair perfectly, and you can buy them, I mean, we could say that having a lot of money is just a good way to enslave people. Whether you call it slavery or not, you have control over them. So,
yeah,
and part of the way America does things is that money buys you power, which buys you control over people. I don't know. Slavery must have been wonderful. Must have just been a great experience for white people. Just now we don't.
Well, and and until that seems to be an ongoing thing, and I guess it's human nature that until a thing affects you, it's very difficult to recognize it for its uglier qualities. You're fine cheating people out of their hours at work, but then once it starts happening to you, well, what are these rules? Maybe we should revamp this so my, people above, I can't do it to them anymore, but my higher ups can't do it to me anymore because it's wrong, because it's been done to me and I feel bad about it. Or, the thing that you very often see, my granddaughter, married a black guy, a Hispanic guy, somebody who is not of my race, is not of my religion. And I don't want my family to be treated badly because in our circle, this is a problem. So now I have to start talking about how old people are just people and my granddaughter's just people. And she doesn't deserve to be mistreated because she went off the reservation to do this thing. Or, everybody is a useless, dirty faggot until it's your son. And now, maybe we should reconsider how we treat gay people in this country. And, homosexuality is just a thing that happens. And, people have to live their lives and they're not hurting anybody. And love is love, but only because it happened in my family. So
that's right. It has to be. We don't get it unless it's very personal.
Yes.
It's very immediate. It's hard to really feel what other people are going through or to care about it, because life is very demanding. And there's a whole theory of American culture is that we're all climbing to higher levels of income and power, and that's the American dream. We'll all own a house, we'll all own a car, we'll have 1.7 children, and it used to be, and we'll marry within our race. I mean,
and our
there
religion.
Used to be all kinds of other parts of the American dream. immigrants will serve us. That's part of the American dream too. And just because you were forcibly immigrated from Africa doesn't, you're still an immigrant. And so it's a tough part of American history. And of course, the administration would like to not have our very, very human history, because it's the history of all people. People of all races have enslaved people and murdered people and gathered riches to harm other people and allowed people to starve. All of that's all human history, and it's all American history too. It just is. And so when we Americans, part of our dream is to be exceptional. And to be exceptional seems to be with this administration is to erase history, is to pretend it didn't happen. And maybe the only thing exceptional about us is that we actually look at our history and try to learn from it.
Well, on that note, I'm going to toss in that you can't call slaves immigrants, regardless of where they came from or how. When Asian women are being trafficked into the country, when Hispanic women are being trafficked into the country, they're not immigrants. They are slaves. They are victims. They are. Well, they can. I guess you can call them a lot of things, but anyone who is in that place for anything other than their direct and intentional will, those people are not immigrants. They are something else, and they should be looked at, seen as something else.
It's human slavery. That's what it is. We have a word for it.
It's human slavery. It's human slavery, and then you have the unfortunate truth that not everybody, even after they find liberation, has somewhere else to go. The idea that Liberia is a homeland to Black people who left the United States to get away from slavery, that doesn't make it a mecca for all Black people who want to get out from under this system. If you're trying to make your home here, if you're trying to take your piece of the American dream, saying that, well, there's other places you could go, there's another place you could be, that's not fair and it's not honest. In the same way that, if your mother was trafficked here and she's raised her family, and then when she found her freedom, she raised her family here, because at that point she still didn't have the means to leave. And we as a government don't do things like saying, okay, you were brought here forcibly. We've already acknowledged that. We've already prosecuted that. You need to now be able to go back where you want to be. If you want to stay here, we'll find a way to make that work. If you want to go home, we'll find a way to make that work. If going home is safe for you, we basically just say, well, we prosecuted it. You are now free to live your life in whatever way you will. So huzzah and well done. Good job. Go. So if you don't have the money to go back to your country of origin, even if you have the desire, if you have to work for 20 years to get to that point, and then by then, your roots are here, your kids are here, your life is here. You don't want to leave anymore, even though you want to go home. Now home's a place you visit instead of a place you go back to. And Black people are not in a position to just call anywhere else home. And I'm sure there are plenty of people in that boat.
Yeah, well, there was an article in the New York Times about sex workers on Figueroa Boulevard here in Los Angeles, where there are just hundreds of women, and I assume some men, and some of these are girls. Yeah, they're underage girls who come out of the streets, and a lot of them have been trafficked to the area, or they're run by pimps. And this part of the article was how to help them get away from that, as if if we prosecuted the pimps, and if we found them shelter and that sort of thing, that somehow they are free. Now they can return to a regular middle-class life of, go back to marry a man, have a car and a house, 1.7 children. The American dream, they can go back to the American dream. And of course they can't, because they've had a whole lot of experience in that whole world of being trafficked. They've experienced slavery. They know what it's like to be, this is what they know. This is what they get. So they frequently go back to their pimps. So they go back and they get involved in the business again. Because usually they've come from homes where there's been nobody supporting them, no one caring for them, or they've had sexual abuse or physical abuse, all that sort of thing. So this thing about freedom is a tough one. How do we help people really be free? I think in our country we want to provide so much opportunity for everyone, and we want to present equality for everyone, at least equality under the law, equality of opportunity. I've always thought that was part of the American dream, but it competes with the other part of the American dream. Now we're seeing the darkness of the American dream from Trump and Hegseth. And we're seeing the persecution of trans people. It's their turn to get the spotlight of oppression. This is their time in the military to be prosecuted and persecuted again. And so we have Trump signing an executive order that transgender people are unfit for service because they do not fit the standard again. We're back to a standard. And I think we should be talking about rational standards versus irrational standards. And it's like, there's nothing rational about making a black man shave in such a way that it hurts his neck, that it causes infections. And there's nothing rational about that. And it used to be is that black folks were not allowed to serve with white folks in the military. Another crazy sort of standard of that skin could matter somehow. I mean, I'm sure I wondered about that when I was a kid because I was raised in a segregated neighborhood in Long Beach. But when I went into Army basic training at Fort Lewis, Washington, the best leaders I had were Drill Sergeant Allen, and he was the senior drill sergeant. I don't remember my platoon sergeants. Oh, Edwards. If you're out there, guys, contact me. Edwards and Allen. Allen was the senior drill sergeant of Echo Company, 5th Battalion, 2nd Training Brigade of Fort Lewis, Washington. And Drill Sergeant Edwards was the platoon sergeant that took all these white boys and showed them real leadership and a real sense of humor to get us through all the bullshit that is Army basic training. Maybe one of the biggest threats is, and I'm getting off now, but I'm going to go back to trans people, but one of the biggest threats of black leaders in the military is that some of them are so much better than the white leaders. And these two guys at E52 were so much better than the company commander, who is a guy, I won't say his name. And I wonder about this fighter pilot. Her name is Commander Emily Schilling. She's a decorated Navy pilot who is the lead plaintiff in Schilling versus Trump, one of 3 federal lawsuits challenging the Trump administration's executive order barring transgender service members. So what the military is up to now is telling anybody that has, quotes, gender dysphoria, it's a diagnosis, that they have to leave the military. It's sort of like, we can't we can't seem to accommodate a decorated fighter pilot in her needs to feel more comfortable about herself by providing hormone therapy. I don't think she's had any surgeries. I don't know. But really, we wouldn't accommodate that. We would instead, I don't know if was an F-16 pilot or an F-35. It costs $6 million to train a fighter pilot. But no, Emily has to leave. Oh, that's an F-16. Oh, an F-35 is only $13 million. So are we out of our minds? And I must answer that yes, we are. We are insane to have someone like Emily Schilling be discharged because this somehow concerns Pete Hegseth or the MAGA folks. Really, I just want to say how very sorry I am to upset Pete. Pete, I'm so sorry that Emily upset you. You know, it's very upsetting to have a decorated fighter pilot be a woman or a transgender person. Because guess what, Pete? You never achieved any of that. Did you? No. You drank instead. You liked alcohol a lot, I understand. But Emily's out of the military now. She was faced with either losing her retirement. I think she did complete her retirement before they went after her. And so we've lost another fighter pilot. Well, can we really afford that as a country? I don't know. Can we afford to lose Drill Sergeant Edwards and Drill Sergeant Allen? Really? Can we afford to lose somebody like that? Really? Can we? Well, we're doing it. And we're going to do more of it. Like, I think there's been 5,000 gender people, gender dysphoria people discharged now from the military. And the military is getting away with it because in 2024, they're recruiting. They were having trouble meeting all the different services were having trouble meeting recruiting targets. But in the last 3 months, we're recruiting. They're meeting their standards. And Mitch, do you know why that is? Do you know why we're meeting it?
I do
Is
not
it because we've gotten rid of DEI finally? Is that why? Why do you think? Why do you think?
We know that they have lowered standards. Even though he is saying, it has to be the best male standard. That's basically just on the physical side. We have definitely lowered the expectations for education, just base intelligence, or at least the ability to do well on a test. That has gone away, and that's certainly going to help with the numbers. What were you thinking of?
Well, I don't know, but I'm thinking it's because the economy is headed into the toilet. It's very hard to get a job right now. And historically, not that I have to worry about that, but historically, when the economy goes down and people are having trouble going out of one job to another or just getting employment, period, people go in the military. And when the economy improves, and the economy, I know people didn't feel it, especially people that are of lower and middle income they felt the economy was really bad under Biden. But it's so much worse now. It's like, you could readily get a job under Biden. At least what I'm hearing is you can't now. It's just very hard to go from one job to another. So people are holding onto their jobs. That's what I'm hearing. That's the statistics I'm hearing. But I won't make that gospel. That's just what I think's going on. And the military has always been the employer of last resort. in the pervasive racism of our culture, the where we've denied equal employment to Black people, women, LGBTQ people. There's a lot of transgender people in the military just because they've been thrown out of their houses. They've been already victimized by their own families, their own communities, and they find, like some of the people we interviewed, they found a community within the military. So it can be a tremendous democratic, what's the word, engine of equality, of economic opportunity, of being able to climb the ladder within American culture. Or if it gets in the hands of people that don't believe in diversity, inclusion, and equity, they don't believe in it, which Hegseth doesn't, obviously, then it becomes an instrument of oppression. I mean, so I got out of graduate school $15,000 in debt in 1972, I think it was, which was a lot of money then. And I had I did not have a job. I was married. I had a baby and a second child on the way. I had no money. I had no job. I had no insurance. I didn't have zippity doodah. And the Navy was a great opportunity for me. It paid off some of my student loans. It gave me a good salary. It provided, two of my children were born in naval hospitals. It trained me in a profession that was very good for me. And I would have stayed in the military if I could have been myself. If I could have come out and been myself, I would have stayed probably. Because there was wonderful opportunities for me there. But at that time, the Navy was not a safe place for LGBTQ people. I mean, there were a lot of people doing it, making it work, but it was nothing safe about it as far as just being able to be out and normal and all of that. So we're kind of headed back towards that. Looks like we got somebody in. That's kind of what Hegseth and Trump want. They want to turn back time. I want to do a shout out to Emily Schilling. She started something called SpartaPride.org. Go to it. Take a look at what they're doing, especially if you're a transgender person. If you want to support transgender people in the military, go there and subscribe. Also, we want you to subscribe and watch us too. So if you like what you heard today, or you could look back over our other podcasts too, see some of our guests, like and subscribe, will you? And go look at Mitch and Mai's movie, Love and Country. It's about two gay men, or at least one gay man, maybe one bisexual man. I don't know. Who knows what anybody is, but who fall in love during the Vietnam War, during combat of all things. And my book, Love and Country, is even more depth exploration of that story. So we're glad you came to join us, and maybe you learned something today, and maybe you can teach us something about DEI. Maybe you can comment about it and how DEI has helped you, or how you think it's totally and completely wrong, and that we should go back to what people normally do, which is discriminate against each other and oppress those who are not as powerful as we are. That's just the normal human thing. The thing about America is it did something different. It tried to do something different. And it got off to a rough start, Our founding fathers were really into slavery. And we got into a rough start, but we got the idea going of equality. Everybody gets a shot at running their own country and running their own communities. And that idea got loose in the world, and it's loose now. And it's still loose in America. So, thanks, Mitch. Thanks for being there.
Thank you, Dr. Gayton.
Good to talk to you. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Take care.